I'm sure you're all familiar with the movie Rudy. You know, the one where Rudy heads into the championship game with no one in the world expecting he would make a play. Kind of like me heading into our championship game at Moreau. Well, Rudy did make a play. A big one, in fact. After helping his team win the game with a game-sealing sack, we see Rudy take his helmet off, shake his sweaty head around, and celebrate his feelings of pride, joy, and honor with his teammates. See, for me, it was vastly different. It's never been that easy. When I take my helmet off after games, I'm met with long stares and weird looks due to the turban I wear to cover my hair. Although I've made lifelong friendships with my teammates, every year new players, fans, and opposing teams stared at me as I walked out of the locker room and onto the field. I heard comments such as raghead, terrorist, ISIS. I felt them staring cold daggers into me, but I tried to shut that out and focus on the upcoming game. Now, obviously, it's hard to subject yourself to an environment like this. And as the years went on, I slowly felt more and more included, culminating in this past season, which was easily the most fun and memorable. Except the championship game, I forgot that one pretty quickly. Although I ultimately gained the feeling of acceptance and inclusion I desired, I felt like I had to clear extra hurdles just to get there. I wanted my peers and teammates to understand who I was and the values I stood for, just like I wanted to understand who they were and the values they stood for. I knew I had to take action, but I faced a problem. I was tasked with bringing an incredibly diverse student body together. Nowadays, students are separating more and more into cliques. Uniting teens with so many differences, both physically and personality-wise, would certainly be a challenge. I brainstormed for hours, writing down any ideas that came to my head. I distinctly remember filling up at least 2 notebooks worth of ideas, scratching off every one of them because I couldn't settle on just one. It wasn't until dinner one random night that I had my eureka moment. Over dinner, my dad shared a story about a complex workplace dispute he had with a new coworker of his. He told me about how he took his coworker out for lunch and they worked the dispute out over chicken paninis and tomato soup. During my dad's story, I realized something we all have in common, no matter our race, religion, or gender. People love food. Now, the concept of using food to solve problems enticed me because if there's 3 things I love most in life, it's family, football, and you guessed it, food. I knew if I wanted to bring an extremely diverse student body together, I could use the concept of sharing meals and food to achieve this. Now, the idea of using food to create bonds is not a new one. For years, families have gathered over Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners. People have invited new neighbors over to share a meal with them. Even Jesus and his apostles shared a meal at the Last Supper. And another example, closer to home, I remember the nights my mom went out to wine and dine with her new friends. I distinctly remember her mood when she came back after these dinners. She was happy, relaxed, de-stressed, and most importantly, she was yelling a lot less. Now, the importance of using food to create bonds cannot be overlooked. In fact, the University of Oxford released a research study about social eating, or eating together. In this study, 75% of respondents said that eating together actually strengthened their family bonds and their connection to their peers. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with Anthony Bourdain, the celebrity chef. Anthony Bourdain once said something very profound, something that ultimately inspired my solution to the problem that I and other students at my school faced. Bourdain once said, "Nothing creates bonds like eating meals together." Now, after hearing something like that from someone who ate food with almost everybody, you have to buy into the concept. I recognized the history of sharing meals, and I heard numerous inspiring stories and quotes about it. This led me to my creation of Bread Together. Bread Together is a platform dedicated to creating safe environments for students to talk. Bread Together works to ensure that everyone can come together, no matter their race, religion, ethnicity, anything really. Bread Together ultimately strives to give people a chance to have heart-to-heart discussions about everyday biases and issues they may face. So let's think about it. What happens when we eat together? Well, we talk, we laugh, we de-stress, but most importantly, we open our hearts up to one another. It feels like you're in a safe place when you're sharing a meal with someone, and you start to share and communicate what's on your mind. Now, a normal Bread Together event is anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes long. Each event has an individual theme, whether it's religion, ethnicity, mental health, refugees, anything really that's on your mind and you wish to discuss. For example, let's take Bread Together's first event, Meet a Sikh. At this event, I served traditional Punjabi food, kulcha chole and mango lassi, and showed an informational video about my religion, Sikhism. Little did I know, the food would serve as a great icebreaker. Students asked questions about the exotic food first, as it was like nothing they had really tried before. Slowly, as they gained confidence in the safe environment we were in, they began asking more sensitive questions, such as how long my hair was or how I tied my turban every morning. Immediately after the first event, I and others involved saw the impact that Bread Together and sharing meals can have. My teammates and peers were more accepting of my religion and its values. I heard less derogatory comments and more genuine questions regarding other beliefs I stood for. And the icing on the cake, less people randomly grabbed my turban and were more comfortable asking for permission before doing so. Seeing the impact that Bread Together could have, I wanted to hold more events to cover other topics. So, over the next year, we held a Bread Together for Mental Health event, where students could discuss the stigma around mental health in today's society and talk about how they can improve their own mental health. In addition, we held a Bread Together event to meet a refugee family. At this event, visitors came to a house of a refugee family from Afghanistan who was settling down in Castro Valley. The refugee family served exotic foods and a welcome drink. I remember the questions the visitors were asking. They first asked about the welcome drink and the food. It was different than any food they had tried here in America. Slowly, as the visitors felt more comfortable in the environment and the refugee family showed their willingness to answer questions, the visitors asked more sensitive questions about the refugee family, such as why they had to move. By the end of the conversation, I felt like I was in a conversation between two parties who had known each other for years, despite them meeting only hours before. And that is the power of sharing meals. Ultimately, Bread Together fosters compassion through conversation over meals. It creates a more connected generation, a generation which transcends religion, race, or nationality, and treats each other as brothers and sisters, rather than foreigners or immigrants, or black, white, and brown. That is the power of breaking bread together. Now, imagine a world in which we use a simple platform like Bread Together to achieve something humans have been trying to achieve for centuries: peace. With the help of a platform that forces us to sit with our neighbors and form new connections, we can create a world where people truly care for one another and can empathize with each other's problems. In my humble opinion, we all have a duty. Together, we must find groups who can't speak for themselves, invite them over for a meal, and give them a voice. I challenge you all to find someone who needs this chance to talk, and allow yourselves to find commonality between you two over a nice meal. I encourage everyone here to follow the very simple format of creating a Bread Together event. If everyone carries out their duty to better understand their fellow man, we can create a generation of people more connected and compassionate than ever. And if that doesn't work out, at least we all get to enjoy food in the process. Sharing food to create bonds works. The proof is in the pudding, both literally and figuratively. Thank you.